Who's your buddy? Am I your buddy? I'm your buddy. You my buddy? I'm your buddy because I'm the clown. This is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. May 25th, 2021. This is episode 110. And who's your buddy? We're here to discuss legendary comedic actor Buddy Hackett. That's who your buddy is. As always, today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste of game time, there's only one G Vegas. Available at www.gvegas.webs.com. Buddy Hackett, we're going way back. We're going old school. I don't know if the kids of today they care about the history of comedy, but if you want to be a good comedian, you need to know the history of comedy. If you want to be good in any field, need to know the history of that field. Okay, that's what's going to make you better in that field. You want to be a better comic, know what happened before you. Okay, but everything's to the next hot shit comic, so they don't need to learn. So once you fall on your face a few times, then you learn. You do need to learn. It takes years to hone the craft, years to learn your art. And who do you learn it from? Legends like this: Buddy Hackett, Leonard Hacker, stage name Buddy Hackett. Known for The Music Man in 1962, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World in 1963. Probably his most memorable role to the kids, anyway. The Love Bug in 1968 and The Little Mermaid in 1989. Our parents probably remember him for the former movies there, and the kids for the later. But hey, I always said before, if you're hitting two generations doing something, man, that's legendary status right there. That means you weren't a one-hit wonder. You didn't fizzle out. You had something going on there. People liked you. People respected you. Let's see. He suffered from Bell's palsy as a kid. That contributed to his slurred speech and facial expressions. Now, I always thought that was his act, and he talked funny, and that was his act. And little did we all know that we were laughing at a handicapped person. So maybe we're all going to hell for it. I don't know, because we didn't know. We didn't know. We thought it was an act, and little did we know it was only part of an act. That a lot of it was due to an illness. And but I worked with. I didn't work with him. I mean, a couple times I did some stuff with him, and he had a hand that was kind of like a claw. It didn't really work. And he said, I've had so much fun in comedy with the claw. I wish I had two of them. It's such a funny thing. So it's like they can laugh at themselves, and it's like if they can laugh at themselves, then why can't you laugh at them? That's what I say. So they wouldn't be there unless you wanted them to laugh at it. So go ahead and laugh. Laughter is the best medicine. Let's say he was a student. He worked at a resort, and he tried to entertain the guests. Because if you're like, what do you call it? If you're checking people into the hotel, they're on vacation. You get them laughing, you might get a better tip. Laughter's a gateway to a whole lot of things. You know, they say what? Hey, some guys, laugh girls right in the bed. So if you want a girlfriend, you want a good tip, whatever you want, laughter, get them laughing. That's what they all say. I guess the resort had a nightclub there, and eventually started doing comedy there at the nightclub, which later led to performances at the Golden Hotel in New York City. And I guess they weren't. Whole New York is a tougher crowd than at your, local resort where people are on vacation and they're skiing or something and having a good time. New York's a tough crowd. You go up there. He said he performed there. He said he didn't get one single laugh. It was a tough crowd, so that didn't work for him. After graduating from school, he enlisted in the Army, and he served there during World War II. So thank you, Buddy Hackett, for your service. We do appreciate that. Let's see, after he got out of the Army and he got out of the war, he started performing at the Pink Elephant in New York City and Brooklyn. So don't ever let it kick you down. I always say, if I have a bad set somewhere, I can't wait to go back to that place and make it right and have a good set, just to say, you know what, I redeemed myself. So he didn't let old New York cook him down. He's back at the Pink Elephant in Brooklyn. Went on to, I guess he did the good there because he wanted to perform in a place like LA, Vegas, started acting on Broadway. He was in the movie Lunatics and Lovers, where he got seen by Max Lieberman, who big television guy at the time. And that's why I say you never know who's going to see you at these places. You could be anywhere. You don't know who's in the crowd. So give it your all no matter where you're at. I mean, I see some comics, if it's a big crowd, they really get into it. Then if it's like 5 or 10 people, they're just gonna, which is common in comedy. Every night's not a big crowd. Sometimes you get small crowds, and they don't give it the roll. And it's like, well, you don't know those 5 or 10 people. You don't know who they are. I mean, that could be, you could stand out at all the other comics and get something else going on because of who's seen you. So don't ever let a small crowd fool you. Remember Andrew Dice Clay used to say that. He said, even at the Comedy Store back in the day when there was 5 or 10 people there, he's like, I gave it my all. It was practice, It was like I could get them laughing. That prepared me for the big gigs, prepared me for other stuff. He's like, well, the comics were going through the motions. I was going for it, and it made him a better comic for it. So Max Lieberman decided to put him in 2 television specials. 1950, you got a 10-minute spot, which 10 minutes in comedy is gold. You start out, they usually give you 5. Some places give you 2, then you got to work your way to 5, but 5 is the standard. Then if you work your way up to 10 to 15, that means you're featuring. Then you get to the headliner staff of a half hour to 45 to an hour. But 10 minutes on TV, that's unheard of. Come on. So I guess it was the wide world of sports. You get a spot, championship golf. They had a pro golfer showing the right way to golf, and then they had Buddy Hackett showing them the wrong way to golf, and he turned it into a funny thing. So they want a comedy guy for that. Thought he fit the role. I guess after his TV experience, he was actually offered to join the Three Stooges, and as Curly's replacement. Curly had a stroke, as we all know, and they brought in Shemp to replace him instead. And I guess. Now, it was controversial. He said this isn't true, and a lot of people claimed it was true, so it depends on who you want to believe. But he said that they said that he turned down the role because he didn't fit with the other guys, which, sometimes, like I said, if you do a comedy show, and you're on with some other comedians that you don't like, you're not really having as much fun as if you're there with your pals, and you're having the time of your life, doing comedy with your friends is what it's all about. So sometimes, what's the perfect fit with other comedians? And I guess that was the case with him. And he said he'd rather work on his own comedy and go off, which, turning down the Three Stooges, that's a huge opportunity there. So, but I guess he said that wasn't true. It wasn't how it went down. So again, who you want to believe the rumors, or I guess you wouldn't want to be known as the guy who turned down the Three Stooges. So why would you admit to it? So it depends on what you want to believe. I guess now everybody's got their signature routine. Okay. I got my signature routine is the child support superhero. It's a character that I do. It's taken off. The characters become bigger than the actual routine that I did, but that's my signature routine. And I guess he finally hit his signature routine. He used some rubber bands. He put them around his head to slant his eyes, made him look like a Chinese person. And while he looked like the Chinese guy with the rubber bands, he did a frustrated Chinese waiter routine. And it was just a huge, huge hit. It was such a huge hit, he recorded it. I guess the recording became so popular, he was hired to reprise it in movies. Walking My Baby Back Home in 1953. So do you want to know how you get into movies? You got to get discovered with something famous like that. And I remember they said that at the Comedy Store, because it's a comedy store, that's where all the top comedians were. And all these television writers, they're looking for premises. They used to hang out at the comedy stores watching the comedians. If they did something funny, you'd see it on TV next week. And I guess they started spotting them out, like the waiters and waitresses. They'd spot them out to the comedian, like, hey, these TV guys are here. And they'd do crowd work. They wouldn't do their routine because they don't want the TV guys stealing it. Because once it's on TV, somebody else is doing it. It's not your routine anymore, even if you're the one who created it. So that's how dirty the business is. Welcome to dirty comedy. It's a dirty, dirty business. Let's see. I guess Buddy Hackett was hired to double for Lou from Abbott and Costello, Lou Costello. I guess Lou had an illness, and Buddy Hackett he had the similar build, a short, chubby guy like Lou did. So I guess the long scenes, where you saw Abbott and Costello from a distance, you couldn't really make out the facial features. I guess a lot of that was it was Buddy Hackett playing Lou, and who knew? Let's see, 1950s and 60s. I guess he gained bigger popularity by being a guest on variety shows, which, I mean, you got these comics that are popping up every other, you see him on a different show, as a guest star every other week. One of the few guys that was actually on the Jack Parr and Johnny Carson's version of the Tonight Show. So Who did the Thanks Show before Johnny Carson? It was Jack Parr, and I guess such a good guest on Jack Parr that Johnny had him on also. He's such a big, how do you not? He's a big, one of the big comedians of the time. He was on the game show What's My Line, which I guess today's version would be Funny You Should Ask. I love that show if you've seen it. Funny You Should Ask, where they have comedians on, and What's My Line? It was the same thing with comedians in a game show type setting. So he was on the Perry Como show. He appeared with his then roommate Lenny Bruce. Do you believe that? Lenny Bruce and Buddy Hackett were roommates. Who would have known that? But they appeared on the Patrice Munzel show. And wow. All right then. All right. I have a bug here that I keep squishing, but he just won't die. So I don't know if that's a flea or what the hell it is, but all right. Hey, I'll introduce the podcast to kill one bug because that's just what I do. All right. Well, let's hope we got him. Who knows? Where was I? All right. Lenny Bruce. All right. They were roommates on the Patrice Munzel show. They portrayed the not ready for primetime player routine. And I guess this was 20 years before Saturday Night Live did the same thing. I guess Saturday Night Live had that same routine, and they did it 20 years beforehand. So, again, taking somebody else's routine. And even Saturday Night Live frickin' does it. So, who knows what you're saying. Let's see. 2 times on the show, The Rifleman. I remember as a kid, you had the main channels 4, 5, and 7. Then you had to do the little clicker there to get 25 and 38. They weren't the big networks they are today. They played the reruns, and one of the reruns was The Rifleman. And I did watch a lot of episodes of that as a kid. And who didn't want to be the Rifleman? He was the fastest gun in the West, and he used a rifle instead of a pistol. So that was just cool. So 2 times guest starring on that show. Guess he got his own show called Stanley, a sitcom for NBC, which lasted 19 weeks, which mostly in sitcoms, you either flop in the first few weeks or you go on to be long. So, I mean, a middle thing like that, that's kind of, that's successful for major television network. Also preferring on that show were then semi-knowns like him, Carol Burnett and Paul Lindy. So, he's in with some talent there. You're working with Carol Burnett and Paul Lindy. Well, that's some good names to be in with. And again, 19 weeks on the show. It wasn't a big hit, but didn't flop either. Let's see. He was in with Robert Peterson in The Music Man. Mickey Rourke, one of the big actors of the time. He appeared in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World with him. And Everything Ducky. So let's see. Then all of a sudden, your parents liked him. I mean, he was a good star. He was popular, but then he hit the next generation. Once the kids start liking you, okay, these are the kids. That's when you get your parents and kids can watch the same thing together and still like it. He got exposed, and probably the one role I remember him best for, he played the mechanic in Herbie's the Love Bug. And that guy caught him onto a whole new generation of fans. That movie was one of the biggest of the time, before Smokey and the Bandit and the Trans Am and the Dukes of Hazzard and the General Lee. Well, every kid wanted to have Herbie the Love Bug. They wanted their dad to buy a Love Bug and put the big number on it, and that was the big car you had to have. So he was the mechanic in the movie. He was the comedic relief for the other actors. They were all serious, but he was the comedic relief for the movie, and what a great job he did. Guest star on Hollywood Squares, another great game show of the time. 1974, he actually released a book of poetry. So you never know what your comedic friends are into. I always say that. I try to keep my hand in everything because you never know what's going to stick. I did a comedy kitchen. It was a cooking TV show for a while because I worked in restaurants 30 years and I love to eat, and did the podcast here because I love the history of comedy and I love sharing it with you guys. And as much as I know, I learn new things each week with you guys, and I just love the history of comedy. I'm a history buff, and comedy's my thing. So what a great way to put the two together. Got a movie coming out. We're doing a movie. The world needs a new superhero. And I'm a father's rights activist. I do a lot of, well, I can't say a lot with you, but I do, I do a lot of stuff for father's rights. I used to do just myself on a online show, and I just did my first one today, having some other people on. We had four of us, and all talking about our war stories about dealing with family courts and the unfair system and how to solve it. So look that up. Hey, if you're interested in the Child Support Superhero, look him up, give him a like. He's on Facebook. Check out what we're doing over there, because children do deserve both parents equally. Just ask Buddy Hackett. He's on Hollywood Squares, writing poetry. He's doing it all. I guess then in 1978, he actually he played Lou in some earlier Abbott and Costello movies from a distance, the long shots, filling in for when he was sick. He actually portrayed Lou in the TV movie about Lou, Abbott and Costello. So he played Lou, and from what I hear, it was why I did not see the movie, but I have heard about it. It was one of the very underrated films of the time. It should have definitely been bigger than it actually was. But that was a TV film, and actually it wasn't at the movies. I think it was a made-for-TV type thing, and yeah, it's always tough to play legendary characters like that, and you have to give him credit for just paying tribute to somebody like that. Just such a great act as Abbott and Costello. You can't go in there looking for Lou Abbott. You got to look at Buddy Hackett. How good he can portray the character and make it his own. Not that he's gonna become Lou. I did that in my hero. Hey, Sam Kinison. He was the guy. The reason I got into comedy. I did a short film. I always wanted to play him, and I said, "Well, I'm too old to play him in a big movie, but I can make a short film about him." And we did that. Check it out on YouTube. From Preacher to Prophet, a Sam Kinison story, and I play Sam. Who knew it? Funny like a clown host, Dennis Wirth played Sam Kinison in a short film, and that's what you do. It's what Buddy Hackett did. Good enough for him. It's good enough for me. 1979, he played the voice of the groundhog and Pardon Me, Pete. And we've always said it, voice work, it's a safe thing to do. It's a good money thing to do. And it keeps you relevant thing to do in between, other gigs. And sometimes it can be bigger than your actual gigs. So you never know. 1979, he was the narrator for the movie Jack Frost. In 1980, he was in Hey Babe. And he did actually, for a short time, he did a revival of Groucho Marx's You Bet Your Life, which was another game show at the time, which, what's the name? Family Feud. I can't even remember. Richard Dawson did it. Louis Anderson did it. And, the guy from Home Improvement from Tool Time. I can't remember his name, did it. Another guy did it, but they had so many hosts of that show. So, and there aren't many game shows on. I think Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune was the only two. Price is Right during the day. That's a legendary one. But yeah, people like to watch game shows, I guess. Remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Regis Philbin, that was a big thing. So they try to bring back these old game shows, because how many different angles can you go? And if you semi-remember it, then that's going to get your crowd. And it's an established thing rather than bring out a new one and confuse the heck out of everybody. So hey, you want to pay the bills? You know what else you do when you're a big star? You do commercials. He was the spokesman of Tuscan yogurt and Lay's potato chips, which I still remember this day. I bet you can't just eat one. He was the guy who started that in the commercials there, and to this day, nobody can eat one potato chip. So I guess Buddy knew what he was talking about. And I remember Jay Leno. The host of the frickin' Tonight Show. Yeah, that was one of his big things. He started out doing Doritos commercials. So you never know what your big stars are going to be doing. And even I remember the girl who played Phoebe from Friends. She did a commercial after Friends, and she did a couple of big hit movies. But you know what? You got to pay the bills, and these sponsors, they'll pay you big bucks to come in and sponsor their stuff. And it's like, you say to yourself, well, geez, they're such big stars. Why would they do a cheap commercial like that? Because they're not cheap commercials. They're paying the big bucks. That's why they do them. Okay, they sell products. I remember Evel Knievel said that he made more money selling the little toy there, the Evel Knievel wind-up motorcycle toy, than he ever did doing any of his stunts. He said that was where the big money was, in the toy. So sponsors, that's why we have G Vegas Buffalo sauce as our sponsor. So go buy some G Vegas Buffalo sauce and make me a rich guy, because Joe Rogan gets $100 million for his podcast, and I'm selling buffalo sauce. So you got to do what you got to do, just like Buddy Hackett doing what he got to do. How good was he with what he did? He got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and They don't just give those to anybody. Let's see. He was on the Late Show with Craig Kilborn. I guess he was a regular part of the show where he'd come in and tell stories about comedy, kind of like we're doing here on Funny Like Clown podcast. We're exploring history's past, and he'd tell, you know, veteran comic like that, which I'm always in. I do road trips, you know. I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, and sometimes I do a road trip up to Maine, and I did it with a veteran comic. And one time we hit black ice coming back. We literally had to drive 2 states away, 20 miles an hour all the way home because the black ice was so bad. So 20 miles an hour driving across 2 states, that's a long time. And he kept us entertained. The veteran comic, it was me. I was the middle act. It was the opener, and then the headliner. And the headliner just told us story after story after story about comedy the whole way back. And that was what kept us entertained driving 20 miles an hour across 2 states. 1999, he was in Fox's Action, which I guess is one of the series on Fox TV. Played a security guard, so it's always cool when you passed your prime and your old age. You don't want to travel as much, but you keep your foot in the door. You're always part of something. It gives you something to get up for in the morning. Let's see. 2003. I guess finally ended his legendary career. He passed away of heart disease at the age of 78. And I guess for whatever reason, it's a common procedure today, but they suggested he had a triple bypass surgery, and he would not have the surgery. He said he's going to go out his own day, which 78 nowadays, 78 is a good ripe old age to live for. I mean, back then, everybody you knew died in their 60s. So if he made 78 back then as a big guy, he did pretty good. I only hope I make 78. That's a damn good life right there. But legendary career right there. Gee, stand-up comedy, Broadway, commercials, movies, game shows, you name it, this guy did it. What else do you want from a legendary comedian like that? Buddy Hackett, parents' favorite, kids' favorite, legendary from Herbie the Love Bug, and hopefully when my movie comes out, the world needs a new superhero. The world needs a new superhero, he tried to say. On Amazon Prime, it becomes a cult classic, and that either shoves me to the next level, or for the rest of my life, I'm a local comic Dennis Wirth, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that because I'm having fun. And if you have fun, you never work a day in your life. This podcast, not everybody digs it, but a lot of people do. You know why? Because a lot of history buffs out there like me, and they love to hear about their favorite comedian and the old comedians. And I love doing it. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, come on over, check it out. It's every damn podcast platform you can think of because, hey, we're having fun together. So till next time, tell somebody who your favorite comedian is tomorrow and ask them what they think of it. And, maybe you get a new opinion on them you never thought of, and you're learning the history of your favorite comedian. I am Dennis Wirth. This is Funny Like Clown podcast. We'll see you next week. Keep laughing, folks.